What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sherdog.com. You are on the live chat called The Trenches. It is myself. I'm Anthony Walker. Follow me at Ant Walker MMA. Joined by the esteemed, the incredible Captain Credential himself, who's back in the building after being a media mogul since we last saw him. Mr. Jason Burgos. What's up, Jason? How you feeling, brother?
Wow, media mogul. I mean, every week by week, it just gets better and better. I mean, it just humbles a person. It really does. But I get to tell you, and get to tell you off air, but we're gonna get to see soon. I did get credentials for UFC ESPN 1. Now the question is, am I gonna be media room or am I gonna be on the floor? Please be on the floor. Which weird. I don't know if you've seen this, Anthony, on the listing for us for our credentials shirt. Me and Jacob have somehow disappeared. It's weird.
Oh, really? I didn't see that. I haven't been able to see like everybody that's credentialed for us. How did that
Yeah.
happen?
When you go to summary, it shows requests and like approved, and it shows you're still approved from 232, but
Well,
me and him have disappeared.
I'm glad I'm still approved from 232.
Yes.
That's coming in handy right now. So I don't know why. I mean, I will say this, that the credentialing process did get kind of thrown in disarray when the event moved from Vegas to LA, and there was some shuffling around that had to happen. Maybe you guys got mixed up in that shuffle somehow or another. It's entirely possible. We end up having to do some sort of emergency repair work to make sure that we had a photographer and videographer there. So shout out to Matt Hunter, my boy that y'all hear about all the time on Mixed Combat Radio, who jumped in on the photos for Sherdog.com for 232. So
I mean, speaking of 232, I mean, we got to talk about this. You were there. I mean, you were at the pre-fight. You were at the media day, the weigh-ins. I mean, you did the whole entire experience of the insanity. Thank you to one John Jones. Just tell us about the craziness that was.
Man, it was pretty interesting to be at to see firsthand. I mean, of course, we show up for the fights, so the fights themselves were fantastic. It was great to be that close to the action, to literally witness history with Amanda Nunes knocking out Chris Cyborg, getting to have an up close analysis of how John Jones, Alexander Gustafsson played out. Seeing it up close and seeing it firsthand, what it looked like. So there were definitely a lot of big benefits to being there as part of the action, but then also those little things that you're not going to get from reading an article and going through the normal media runs. If you check out Sherdog or MMA Fighting or MMA Junkie or whatever your preferred sites are. So for instance, and I went on the Slip and Dip podcast, another group of friends in the media, Matt Wells and Kendrick Johnson. They had me on to talk about 232 and what that was like covering. And one thing I found very interesting that I said on that show that I will repeat here is that there was a definite undertone of just bad vibes going on at that event. Now, at least until Fight Night started. When Fight Night started, that was one thing. We were all about the fights, but the buildup was kind of rough. We saw. I think we talked about this briefly last week. I was just coming back from the press conference where Dana White snapped at me, where John Jones, tried to incite a riot on on the Swedish journalist who was there, and it was just strange, man. It was really strange talking to some of the fighters afterward that made themselves available for media day and seeing certain people around the fighter hotel, trying to get a sense of what the general emotions were. And, not surprisingly, a lot of people didn't want to speak up for so much, but there was some definite anger and resentment and bitterness there as to the ordeal that the fighters not named John Jones had to go through in order to make this event happen the way that it did. So,
did you get any good off the record kind of statements without giving too many names?
I got a couple. Nothing, no like sensational quotes, which is why I didn't write any articles based on anything that I found out. But as far as compensation for the increase in income taxes or the families having to travel that originally planned on being in Vegas to see 232 and their accommodations to get to LA and hotels and whatnot, and how much money that was setting people back. Let's put it this way. a good amount of fighters lost a lot of money. Now, I've been in contact with a couple people here and there since. I'll reach out and see if there's been anything done that hasn't been publicized. But at least from the way Dana told everyone there at that pre-fight presser, that they weren't planning on compensating any of the athletes for the inconveniences and the extra expenses that went into moving the event. So hopefully that is something that they revisited once all the negative press landed on their laps about that. And maybe that's a situation that is now rectified, but to my knowledge, it is not.
I mean, I can only imagine what it was all like. Just as a person, I would just, want to like everybody as a bystander, seeing what's going on. So I mean, it's like, have you noticed any change in like how you're viewed at all because you were in the midst of it along with that Swedish journalist and getting the smoke from Dana White?
Yeah, actually, I did notice a difference. Now, I thought I was going to get escorted off of anything UFC related.
That would have been awesome.
but that didn't happen. So everybody that I deal with at the UFC is still very nice to me, and everybody's very professional. Even Dana smiled at me at the post-fight presser. So I don't know. Maybe he's just cool with it.
Maybe you gained his respect because you stood in the box and took the fastball and took it and dealt with it. Maybe he earned you earned his respect.
Maybe, but that motherfucker ain't thinking about me. he ain't thinking about my ass. But yeah, I did notice like instantly. So right after my exchange with Dana, and I think this started happening while we were doing the trenches last week. My Twitter is blowing up, and it's people like calling me a real journalist, and I'm asking hard questions and stuff like that. Nice. I appreciate it. I appreciate the love. I definitely appreciate the love. I wouldn't think of myself as like a hard and fast journalist at that, because I don't get to do a lot of investigative work. But I do appreciate that, being honest, having some dignity and sticking to your guns, it means something to somebody. So I definitely appreciate all the love that it was extended my way. So thank you to everyone who did that. But yeah, man, it was definitely an experience. I mean, every time covering a live event, it's always things that are going on behind the scenes that don't get published, that don't get televised, that are all very interesting. And I know you probably have some stories too. You were at the PFL finals. So any tidbits of information mingling amongst the newly made millionaires of the PFL?
I mingled a little bit. I mean, the only difference really was this time around was I was at PFL 1 in the same arena, so they changed the seating, which was a good bad, and that the view was pretty good compared to the other way, though the other set seating we had at press row was closer and on the floor. This was like in the VIP area, like the first row of the stands, but it was like bad in that we were kind of like packed in sardine style, not a lot of leg room, not a lot of movement. But I will say the catering this time, because the first time we just got some water, this time we got some delicious finger foods, got some little barbecue chicken bites that are very yummy. But I mean, I mingled a little bit. It was an interesting situation because you're in the post fight, which was real cool. Like, because if you've noticed PFL post fights before, they kind of like that impromptu. It's the banner, it's the dude that giving the interview. For this, they actually had a section in like on the second floor of the theater, and it had like the seats and the nice banner. It was a much more professional setup and everything. It was good. But it was weird in that it started like around 11:35, 11:40ish. So it was inching closer to New Year's to the countdown. So you're like, are we gonna all be celebrating New Year's together? Like, what's gonna happen? So they had to cut it short. So it was kind of like, but I mingled a little bit. Finally got to meet some of the fighters that I did interview in advance of the PFL championship in there. Their story, Lewis Taylor, also he actually wanted to take a picture of me, which was awesome. Got to meet Carlos Silva and stuff like that. But the situation is cool because, I dig that what was advertised for so long, the buildup of that entire season was we're going to crown millionaires. So it was pretty wild to watch people win and no shit, that dude just became, well, pre-taxes became a millionaire. And it's a great little story to go around to build a season around. And I dig that. I appreciate it. And I appreciate to be there for the inaugural championship. And it was a cool experience. It was good. I digged it.
Yeah, all in all, I think we both had very good experiences covering some mixed martial arts to end the year.
Yes.
I have to say my most interesting moment from this whole week of 232 was I actually got like approached like the dude was a fan. It was so strange. Yeah, so I'm leaving the ceremonial weigh-ins and a guy comes up to me and he says, hey, who's gonna pay Dana's taxes? And he just starts hysterically laughing, and he wants to take a picture with me, and he shook my hand. I was like, "Hey man, great job! You're asking tough questions." So that was pretty cool. So I got my first touch of celebrity, and now my ego has exploded, and I'm the shit. Y'all can't touch me.
So should we call you like Anthony Tax Collector Walker from now on?
He call me the IRS. All right, so with that out the way, let's go ahead and get started with these questions. So we do have a lot to talk about. There was a lot of fights to end the year, and then we also have our homemade Trenchy awards to dish out to all you mofos and savages out there.
I will say, I love this question. This is a great question.
Yeah, this is a dope question to kick it off. So shout out to Glove, who asked this one of us. He says, would it benefit John Jones if he played the role of villain for the UFC? The majority of MMA fans regard him as a volatile personality, and he continues to maintain the persona of a troubled young man with life being unfair towards him. If he were to turn heel, would this not greatly benefit him financially as well, seeing that many will turn out to see him lose more so than ever before? Mr. Burgos, please kick us off with the answer to that incredible question by Glove.
At first, I would like to. I love that professional wrestling jargon, like heel, is used so often in MMA. Like people use heel as a bad guy, and people know it. But anyway, short answer before my long answer: hell, fucking yes. Yes, he should. Honestly, I think it would probably make him more money. Not that he's not having trouble making money, but that's the weird, confusing thing about him, and that makes him almost difficult to swallow at times outside of his gifted ability, is that he's become a disliked kind of character, a very divisive character. You know, there's still those diehards. There's reason to dislike him, but he does, like the Glove nailed it. Like he does play this woe is me kind of, I'm getting a bad rap story. And on some level, maybe he is. And on some level, not at all. He's earned every single bit of bad press and dislike on his own. It's his own fault for all this stuff. It's his own immaturity. Maybe he's maturing, but it doesn't even seem like that at all, too. So if he were to just play it up, this isn't like Colby Covington going from boring to just over the top, and it's just like you're shell shocked, like what the hell's going on? Like he has a background story, and if he just played it up, especially because he's the best. If you say you want to admit it or not, he's the best fighter, just like Floyd was, and Floyd could back it up. He's the best guy. So it's like, I'm the best. Come and beat me. No one else has done it. You won't be able to do it. I'm the best. You know, that would sell, and just live it and own it. And who cares if you're really not that and your family knows what the real deal is? I think it would be huge money for him, huge money for the UFC. Glove, great question. He should totally buy in to being the heel of the UFC.
Yeah, I don't think I could say it any better than that. I mean, John Jones has been plagued with the idea that he is not what he proclaims himself to be. I mean, we remember earlier in his career where he was the preacher's son, and he was, you know, he was very religious. Yep. I think everybody should do yourself a favor and check out the timeline that Esther Lynn and Casey of MMA Fighting did leading up to 232, and they were showing old clips of their interviews with John Jones years ago, and he's talking about how he didn't pay attention to whether he was an underdog or the favorite in a fight because gambling was against his religion, and there's certain things that are so extremely not the guy that we know today. You know, and he was yep. so adamant about proclaiming this particular image, which has now kind of fallen on its own face. Yet he still has that lingering around. It's still, you know, whenever, you know, and I'm not one to mock someone's religious beliefs or their faith in any way, shape, or form, but to go from, in one breath to declaring that Daniel Cormier is a pussy or a bitch or whatever foul words you want to think of, and then in the very next sentence say, or all glory to God, it doesn't make sense. It's like the gangster rapper thanking God for winning a Grammy. It doesn't. God did not help you make this gangster shit. And that's the two things don't go together.
And to give a great example, like the tweet back and forth, I think it was after the fight with Daniel Cormier before, where he said, "I would smack your wife on the ass and you wouldn't do anything." Like, that douchey heel nature is there naturally. He'd be great at it.
Yeah, all he has to do is just be himself. Like that's it. And it comes so naturally, and he's so good at it. And for a guy who otherwise nobody really complains about his behavior or his personality, and no one has anything bad to say about Daniel Cormier, but this guy finds a way to get under his skin every time just by being himself.
Yeah.
Just turning that screw just a little bit, just to piss him off because he's entertained by it or whatever. Like that guy, that sort of guy is very, very marketable. Yep. Floyd Mayweather just made $9 million to do jack shit in Japan over New Year's Eve because people don't like him. Yep. People want to see him lose. There's a lot of money in being the bad guy.
Yes.
Chael Sonnen made a career off of it. Of course, he was doing it in such a comical fashion that we know it was an act.
He still is.
Yeah, he still does it. He still does it, and it's very successful for him. But imagine how much more successful it is for a person who genuinely is.
Yes.
And they don't have to sell up any part of their personality. And on top of that, this person also happens to be the best fighter on earth.
Yes.
I mean, it sells itself. So I don't see the point in maintaining any image any longer. I mean, of course, there are going to be genuine moments of good. And I will give Jones credit for his apology to that same journalist at the post-fight press conference. It was like 20-something minutes in to his time on the podium. I'm sure nobody was watching at that point. And it was completely, the conversation was completely in his favor and boosting him and talking about his future and whatnot. And he sees her and he extends an apology and an olive branch right there. Like, yes, he's going to have moments of being a good person, but if the majority of the time we see him and he's being a jackass, keep being a jackass because clearly people are going to keep buying what you're selling.
Yep, Conor McGregor all day.
Being a jackass and people caring about you being a jackass is what moved this event from Las Vegas to LA. So being a jackass, along with being the greatest fighter on earth, it moves a lot of weight. So why not? Why not stick with it? I don't see anything wrong with him keeping up what he's been doing.
Yep.
All right. So let's move on to Yohimbo, another one of our favorite listeners of the show. He says, will it actually hurt DC's legacy if he doesn't fight John Jones? Considering Jones' past test results, what does DC really have to gain by possibly fighting him yet again? So before we go into that answer, let me consult the poll that we put up because Cormier and John Jones are a part of this. Our poll question is, what is the best fight the UFC could put on in 2019? So far, not a lot of votes for Jones Cormier 3. That is getting 7% of the vote. Overwhelmingly, though, the people want to see Khabib versus Tony Ferguson at 73%. I salute you good people out there who know what the hell you're talking about. Thank you so much for that. All right, so let's go ahead. We'll address the poll, but let's go ahead and segue that into answering this question. What does DC have to gain by defeating Jones or fighting him again, I should say? First of all, if he fights him again, it needs to be at heavyweight. We've seen it twice at light heavyweight. Didn't go his way either time. Of course, the results of both fights have a black cloud around them. And quite honestly, I'd rather not revisit that. Then on top of that, DC has made quite a showing for himself with his return to heavyweight. We see a happier, more jovial guy leading up to the fight. We see a guy with more power. We see a guy whose speed has not declined at all. We see a guy who has not diminished himself in any way, shape, or form to make it to the cage. And that's the version I want to see fighting John Jones if they fight again. As far as what his legacy, DC, of course, if he beats him, it's great for his legacy. If he loses again to him, I don't think that harms his legacy, at least if it's at light heavyweight. I mean, he's accomplished something that Jones has not been able to. He has carved a career as a dual division champion with John Jones's screw-ups and everything's done. He's capitalized and he's done exactly what he could do the best with those circumstances. And I think his legacy's set in stone.
You know, and as a longtime fan of DC, I love the guy. I really don't want to see the fight again just because the idea of him losing to him 3 times is just it kills my soul. But there really isn't a lot for him to gain from it. I mean, in the end, if his legacy is what it is, it's still phenomenal, but he's going to always kind of be number 2 to John Jones in terms of the division. John Jones is still going to go down as the greatest light heavyweight all time, issues aside, because in the end, the fans, there'll be a lot of fans that'll question it and they'll throw the asterisk, but in the greater scheme, they kind of just look at him as the best ever. So even if he came back and beat him, which would be phenomenal personally for him, it'll be a level of vindication for a lot of fans in a world where fans care more about championships and big wins. It's like that in other sports. You have these great players that, oh, they don't win championships. Who cares? You know, that's what the nature of sports fans are. They're just going to say, well, okay, he beat him, but he still lost twice. You know, they're going to still count that second fight, even though it's been, you know, taken off of the record. So his legacy is good to go. He's going to be one of the greatest of all time. That's going to be the one issue, but whatever. Joe Frazier's one of the greatest of all time, and he couldn't beat Muhammad Ali 2 out of 3 times. You know, so it is what it is. I don't see much to gain other than on a personal level for him. But if he won as a fan, it'd be fun. But I don't think he needs to do it. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight. You know, which segues to the next question. Seeing him maybe fight Stipe again, because I think if he beats Stipe a second time, it would put him in a special category as one of the best, the number 2 best light heavyweight ever, and arguably the best heavyweight ever. Because if you beat the best heavyweight ever twice, that's saying something.
Yeah, big time, man. And I think also too with Jones and DC, like they're both, despite DC being universally loved through most circles, and Jones having this heel labeled about him. Mm-hmm. These are guys that most people have already made their mind up about.
Yeah. Yep.
So if you are a diehard John Jones fan, you're always going to hang that over Cormier's head.
Yep.
If you are a diehard against PEDs or against the controversies that have marred John Jones's career, you're going to be sitting there riding with Daniel Cormier. So it kind of doesn't matter really, because people have already made up their own narratives and they're running with it. I mean, just look at the variation in the responses to the irregularities with the PED test leading up to the event shifting cities. How many people were completely one side or completely on the other in this whole issue? John Jones and Daniel Cormier, if they don't do anything else, they polarize the fan base and they force people to pick sides.
Yeah.
So chances are you've already picked a side, and we're just running our damn mouths for nothing. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what this boils down to. All right, so let's go on to our next question. This is from Kung Fu Z, ties into what we just talked about there. Is there any other fight for Cormier than fighting Jones at heavyweight? Thick DC could level the playing field. DC is always thick. Let's get that out there first. But yeah, I think there's definitely some fights out there for him. I mean, you just said Stipe Miocic, which would be make total sense for Stipe. It's a well-deserving rematch, considering that he was the most successful champion in UFC heavyweight history. So there's that. Brock Lesnar, obviously, if Brock decides to come back, that is a huge money fight that has already been set up. And DC being a guy who is a huge pro wrestling fan and is likely to have a commentating career with the WWE when this is all said and done, makes perfect sense to have that fight as well. Definitely makes a lot of sense for his bank account. Outside of that, I mean, if he were to defend his heavyweight title against say Francis Ngannou or some other contender that's kind of surging up there, I'm okay with that. That makes total sense. But Brock Lesnar and Stipe would be the best options for him if he were not to fight Jones next. What do you think?
Yeah, like I said, I mentioned the Stipe, and I'm glad to see recently he made the comment that if the Brock fight doesn't come together, which is still very iffy at this point, he feels Stipe should be the next guy. And I really feel Stipe deserves to get that rematch. I know it ended in the first round, but that's the fight. Like you said, Brock's the fight. I'm not as thrilled with the Brock fight in just that we just saw him fight Derek Lewis. So we got to see the size matchup kind of thing, and Derek Lewis is a more relevant fighter today. So just like I thought even before Derek Lewis, I think DC was going to beat Brock fairly easily. So there's just not much of a real relevancy interest level for that one. But if it happens, I'll still watch. The fight that I would love to see, but it will never happen. And again, it would go towards solidifying DC's legacy and make an argument as the greatest fighter ever. If he beats Stipe, who's looked at as maybe the current and maybe the best ever heavyweight ever, if he were to beat the guy a lot of people think is still the best heavyweight ever, Cain Velasquez, that would be a hell of a fight, though, again, never going to happen. So I agree with you. Brock Lesnar and Stipe, there's not really much for him at heavyweight. Gustafsson lost. That would have been a fun rematch I'd like, but he lost now, so the division's fairly thin. Beat Derek Lewis and Ngannou. So, yeah, like you said, those two fights about it.
Yeah, man, I don't even think about the possibility of DC and Cain because I just don't want to put my heart through that sort of disappointment, man. Because that would be, oh my God, that is a fight dreams are made of.
Yes,
but that's never going to happen. And good on those gentlemen for that and sticking to their friendship. So we did have an interjecting question from the man himself, Europe One, the MVP Europe One. And we're going to tie that in. We're going to tie that into the next question. So the question asked by Cabanos, I believe that's how that's pronounced. How much is a pinch of salt in an Olympic pool? And Europe One's question, is Jon Jones even self-aware enough to play a heel role?
He is. Well, first, a pinch of salt, I guess, is a pinch of salt. I can't give you much more than that. I don't know what else to tell you, but yes, I think he can. The only thing is, Jon Jones is sort of like I feel like there's an athlete I'm trying to think of, but I can't pinpoint it. He wants people to like him. He kind of needs it. He seems to be one of those kind of people that he would prefer if everybody loves him. He wants to be Michael Jordan. He wants to have those commercials. I can be like John. He wants that. But his personality and his decision making makes him completely opposite of that. And I think that's why he, quote unquote, is kind of butthurt by some of this stuff in ways, because he knows it continues to push in the direction of him going away from being the beloved champion to the more hated champion, and his biggest rival going from the disliked guy to the beloved guy. And he probably does not like that because he wants to be the man. So I think he gets it. It's just a question of getting through to him and him making a decision where he goes, fuck it. They don't like me anymore. It is what it is. I'm going to be me. I'm going to do what I want. And that's got to happen at some point, you would hope. But yeah, your point, I think he totally is self-aware enough that he can buy into it and be great at it. He just has to make the decision. Yeah, let me just go all the way with this.
You know what? This is going to be one of those rare times when we disagree.
Ooh.
Because I don't think he is self-aware enough to just comfortably play the heel. And I say that because I get the sense whenever we hear Jon Jones speak about his past transgressions, whether it be the PEDs or the hit and run or his drug problems or whatnot, he always seems to blame other people. He always seems to find a way to look at himself as a victim in this, and one thing I know, I tweeted this out, I think during the pre-fight presser last week. I just found it really incredible that Jones seemed to position himself as a martyr for PED regulations. He really has this narrative set that he is the victim in all of this, and granted, I know I've said this, over the past year and a half or whatever, if some Daniel Cormier apologist poured Turinabol in his water at some point, and he was unknowingly infected with this evil steroid, Okay, then yes. And if it's stuck around in his body for the 70 years that he was saying at one of the pressers or
Did you say
whatever.
70?
I think he said 70 years, and then I saw something talking about it staging your system like 80 years. I saw some stuff all over the map, like what the hell?
Yeah.
But if this is the case, because
like
somebody,
plutonium.
yeah, exactly, yeah, it's like if somebody poured Turinabol in his orange juice the night, like the day before 214, then okay, then it ain't your fault. But but I have a hard time believing that, and believing that this one guy is so unlucky that his PED's got in the system. He has no idea. He's so unlucky. These dick pills were infected. And like he's so unlucky. Oh, I just happened to be in the car with these two chicks, and I wrapped my Bentley around a truck, around a pole. Oh my God, woe is me. Oh my, and I was just minding my business, running the red light, and this pregnant woman got in the way and broke her arm. Like. Yeah. You know, like hearing the way he's described some of these scenarios makes me believe that he, one, has not learned his lesson, and two, is just not aware of what it really looks like. You know, and I think those two things point to someone who isn't self-aware enough to realize that you are the bad guy in this scenario.
You know what, Counselor Walker? You've swayed my opinion. I agree. I'm going to change my decision. I agree. He really, it's true. You make excess, but he really has not seemed to gotten it. Like, dude, you hit a pregnant woman and took your drugs and money and ran, and like, he doesn't get it. Like, and he hasn't changed from it, no matter how old he's got. So you're right. I don't think you're one. I changed my choice. He's not self-aware.
And you know what? And I gotta cite the biggest moment for me in coming to this conclusion. I was watching the interview he did with Ariel on his ESPN show, I guess a couple of months back.
Oh, okay.
And when he's talking about the car accident, he says, and just to paraphrase here, he pretty much says, well, the woman who I hit, like, it was a hairline fracture. Like saying that a hairline fracture isn't a big deal.
Yeah, like no.
And then he went on to say, like, and I ended up paying her, close to $1 million, so it worked out pretty good. And like that was seriously his line of reasoning. Wow. So someone who's thinking like that is going to always find themselves to be the unlucky one, to be the victim, to be I'm the scapegoat for this. I'm the martyr for this glorious cause. Like, no, you're not. You're not a martyr. You got caught up, bro. It's that simple. Now make amends for that and do better. Yeah. And if it is proven that he never took anything intentionally, and this was that evil Daniel Cormier apologist out there spiking people's water and soda with Turinabol, all right, I will be the first to stand up here and apologize, but until then, I'm just not buying it. Like, it sounds silly to me.
And let me add one more thing. Like what you said is fantastic proof of not learning. And this is why I did like a video rant on my Instagram after the fight, just how hard it is to swallow him being the premier fighter in our sport. There's all those things. The two chicks in the running into the light pole. There's the Turinabol. There's the other steroid test. There's the pregnant woman. Then there's the police cam video where he was so self-righteous about how dare anybody stop him and stuff like that. Like he really does not get it. like he's done so many things that should have been a humongous wake-up call. And that's why I was debating with a friend, like, oh, he's becoming like the Floyd Mayweather of the sport, in that Floyd has a terrible reputation, in terms of domestic abuse and these kinds of assaults against some of his girlfriends, and he doesn't own up to it all. He just tries to act like it never happened. And John is in that way, so he might as well just buy into it like Floyd does and just be a dickhead and make more millions of dollars, because he's on the path, and it's sad. And that's what's the hardest part. I was hoping our sport that we love and cover would not get a Floyd, and we have a Floyd now.
Yeah, we definitely do. But I will say this, on the police tape, when he got pulled over for speeding or whatever, that cop was a dick. So I'm with Jones on that one. That cop was a jackass. All right. So let's move on here. Another question from Yohimbo. He says, now that Nunes smashed Cyborg, Is she the female GOAT? Where does she stand all time, male fighters included?
Without a doubt, she's the GOAT. I tweeted this on the day after because I was looking at her record. What's crazy is that, you know, we all know that she has the Shevchenko, she has Misha Tate, she has Shevchenko twice, she has Misha Tate, she has Cyborg now, she has what's crazy is she has Julia Budd, the current Bellator champion. She has her on her record. And oh man, Jay, can you look it up? Not my tweet, but just look up her record. She has another champion on her resume too that she beat. Damn, but she has like 4 or 5 current or former champions that she's beaten in her career. And what's amazing about her career is that it's not flawless. Like, she lost, I think, one of her early fights. She even lost in the UFC.
Katsugano.
Yeah, she lost to Katsugano, but she's got like Sarah McMahon on there too. She's got an impeccable record, and that's the true test of a champion. When you fight the best, you beat the best. And more times than not, except for a few hiccups, she's beaten the best, and honestly, she's gotten better. So it's crazy to remember her. Dave Rondami. I know, there you go, Dave Rondami. Thank you, Jay. Dave Rondami too, another former champion in the UFC that she's gotten a win over. Like, she's beaten the best. She's only gotten better. Her losses are when she was still getting better, a younger fighter. It's crazy to remember her in Strikeforce fighting. I never would have thought, man, this woman is going to be the best women's fighter ever. She's definitely the GOAT of all time in terms of just, you know, unisex, either gender. You can make a case she's top 10. I'm not going to say top 5, but, you know, when we get the next GOAT in 10 years in women's MMA, she may be the top 5. I just think that women's MMA is still developing. It's still very, very new, so you haven't gotten the level of athletes that have come through in the men's side now over plus like 20 years, 25 years at least of the UFC. You're going to get that soon in the women's end, so not quite, but she's probably top 10. Just, and only not top 5 just because she has it for enough great, but she's definitely top 10 because Shevchenko, Joanna, and Cyborg are effing good fighters. So yes, top 10 for sure.
Yeah, as far as the female side of things, there is absolutely no debate.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other answer that I will accept. Everything else is the wrong answer. Amanda Nunes is the greatest female fighter in mixed martial arts history.
Mm-hmm.
And shut up if you think anything else. Don't bother me. So yeah, don't at me on that one. Now I really think, as far as, you know, looking at her record, and this is another, you know, kind of discovery moment for me as well. When I was writing the post-fight column, and I did neglect to actually put one important line in there. So, you know, shout out to me for screwing that up. But
life of a writer, that's what happens. You remember, right? 2 days later, like,
it's like, I should have added that line. I forgot to add this fact. You know, so one thing that is really interesting, you look at her rogues gallery, and you've got champions from Bellator.
Oh, nice use of comic reference, Rogues.
Well, you know,
well done, well played.
Yeah, so yeah, you got a Julia Budd, a Bellator champion. You've got an Invicta champion and Strikeforce champion in Chris Cyborg. You've got Strikeforce champions and UFC champions in Cyborg, in Misha Tate, in Ronda Rousey.
Yep, Ronda Rousey. Yep.
Like there's a stretch of champions that she has demolished.
Yes.
You know, and it's not that she just won these fights. She beat the hell out of them. Like, and interestingly enough, the smallest one, Valentina Shevchenko, is the only one who's come out not looking like a totally different person the next day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's no debate about that. She has beaten the champion at 125. She is the 135-pound champion, and she's also beaten and now become the 145 champion. So you're talking about someone whose greatness has touched 3 different weight classes. I don't think there are not many people that can say the same thing. You know, outside of your George St. Pierre's or your Daniel Cormier's. Those are the only people that really can, or your Randy Couture's, or they can say that their greatness has touched these multiple divisions. Now, as far as ranking her among her male counterparts, I quite honestly, that's not something I've given a lot of thought to. And because simply women's MMA has not evolved to the level that men's is. Like, the divisions are much more flushed out. There's a lot more competition going on. The caliber of athletes has risen dramatically as well. So I'm really it's really hard for me to rank a lot of the female fighters alongside the males, and not because I view them as lesser in any way, shape, or form. It just seems like two different playing fields that we're talking about.
Let me throw this out to see what you think. I would compare her in the rankings and of an all timer as I would a Chuck, a Tito, a Couture, Sakuraba, in that they were in the early stage of the sport. Now, without a doubt, just like every other sport, the level of athlete in MMA now is better than it was then, but they're still equally good and beat the best of their time. So would you agree? Like, if we're going to put a Couture and Sakuraba and some of these guys in there, she's on that level. Like, the place men's MMA and women's MMA is now similar.
Yeah, I can definitely get down with that. Like, I like to liken Ronda Rousey as like the Royce Gracie of women's MMA. So you see how Royce Gracie, when he lost to Matt Hughes, I think it was UFC 68, he passed the baton essentially.
Yeah.
And I think Nunes defeating Rousey essentially passed the baton. So now we're kind of in what was the Matt Hughes, Chuck Liddell era of dominant champions. So, you know, there will be a George St. Pierre on the women's side that will emerge at some point that will dethrone her, and that will happen. But we're not seeing it yet, and until we see it, she's the greatest, and there's literally no other answer that makes sense to me. I'm gonna throw
it out there. If I'm wrong, no one's gonna remember. But if I'm right, everyone will remember. I'm gonna say here and now, Kayla Harrison will be the George St. Pierre.
You think she can get down to?
I think she can. Just knowing, having interviewed her once before, seen her skills so far, if she can continue to develop her striking, which she's, dedicated enough to, and she's at a good camp, unlike Ronda was for a long time, she has the athletic pedigree as a two-time Olympic gold medalist to definitely, if she can make that transition like George would his Kodakushin, I think it's his karate to wrestling, I think she can take that Olympic judo athleticism. If she can get the striking, she could definitely be the GSP.
All right, so you heard it first from our PFL insider, Jason Burgos, who also happens to be a one championship insider. So this man, international level right there, man.
And Kabate a little better.
Hey, Jason, can you do us all a favor? Can you brush that dirt off your shoulders, please? It's piling up, and we need to get that.
Heavy. It's heavy. Oh,
yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's just all over. It's all over.
Even on this one too. Oh.
Yeah, we need to get that off, man. All right. So our next question. Keeping in line with what we were just talking about. Of course, Europe One came through in the clutch again with another great question. He says the UFC has amazingly failed to make Amanda Nunes a star, even after beating Rousey and being featured on some mega events. Do you see the Cyborg win bucking this trend, or will Lioness be underserved in perpetuity? Sorry.
Perpetuity.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get, I think, a little controversial and political here on this one. And I actually had this conversation with Dan Yanofsky at Double G Sports at PFL, at the PFL fight too. No, I don't think she's going to get the push, unfortunately, and it's a shame. The reason why I don't think, and there was even people that brought up tweets after her fight, like she should have been paid more. I think she only got like $250,000, and Cyborg and the other main eventers got like $500,000 or more, something like that. As Anthony gives us all a striptease real quick. So I think the issue with her is, I feel, and this is again subjective, the UFC and the mixed martial arts fan base is mostly men. And if you notice, the ones that are pushed, the Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate, Paige Van Zandt, they're attractive. And not to say there's not attractive men to push too. Look at Paulo Costa. I mean, he's becoming a big deal because he's a good-looking dude. So I think the fact that she's a lesbian and that she's not trying to pretty herself up. Even Joanna has done like the modeling pictures. Amanda is just herself. And the fact that she's lesbian, I think they don't want to push her, and I feel like the male fans, and there's a lot of bonehead MMA male fans, aren't catching on to her and appreciating her for her athleticism. And I think it's an unfortunate kind of statement on society in a weird way, is that people can't overlook the stupidness and appreciate a great fighter. So I unfortunately don't think this will change much. Just to the diehard fans, we're all pretty sure and know how great she is, but I don't think she's unfortunately going to become a superstar because they're pushing her for some kind of unfortunate, weird social reasons that bother me, and it's an unfortunate thing going on.
You know what? I don't necessarily think that it's intentional, that the UFC's lack of promotion.
I hope not.
For Amanda Nunes, but I think it falls under those lines that you're saying. But I don't think it's because of any just blatant wrongdoing on their part. I think it's because they have a very stubborn unwillingness to step out of the box and promote in a different way. And if a female isn't fitting the traditional standards of beauty, they don't know what to do with it. Like they just give up. If you're not a heavily tattooed, trash talking jerk, well, they kind of don't know what to do then. And that tends to be the trend that we see, and why we see guys like Tyron Woodley, or even on a smaller scale like Gregor Gillespie, guys who are in their own rights very marketable and have some sort of uniqueness about them, but the promotion doesn't know how to do anything different than what it's been doing. So I think Nunes has fallen victim to that. But at this point, they have to. They really have to, because there's nothing else left. Like, she's decimated everybody. Yeah, so,
and it's a waste of money. They don't.
It's big time, and they've dropped the ball so ridiculously with her. So she was a beneficiary of the Ronda Rousey rub from Rousey to Holm, and Holm gets shined because she beat Rousey. Tate gets shined because she beat Holm, and these all took place on very, very prominent cards. Yeah. And then when Miesha Tate loses her belt to Nunes on UFC 200, mind you, which was at the time the biggest thing since the slice of bread.
Yeah.
Like they didn't know what to do, and in fact, from later on when she goes to defend her title against Rousey, I don't know if you remember this, but there were stories that I think mainly from Joe Rogan on his podcast, where he talked about how the new ownership then, WME, that there were people backstage who didn't bother knowing Amanda Nunes' name because they thought it was a foregone conclusion that Ronda Rousey was going to win. So on the commercials for, I believe it was UFC 207, where they fought, or 207 or 208, that there were pretty much no ads featuring Nunes prominently at all. It was all about Ronda. Everything was about Ronda. Every bit of promotion, everything centered around her. So when she got destroyed, they didn't know what to do. They didn't just decide, hey, maybe we should promote this woman. So she smashed your big superstar in Ronda Rousey. She smashed your other star, not on the same level as Ronda, but she smashed a very, very bankable star like Miesha Tate, who's got the ratings to prove that Miesha Tate can draw eyeballs. She smashed Chris Cyborg, who was essentially the Mike Tyson of women's MMA. Now, at this point, there is no choice. You have to promote her. If you try to take this belt or this division seriously at all, either division. I mean, granted, the featherweight division doesn't really exist, and I think this could be the death blow to featherweight, because there's nobody but Beacon Anderson and Chris Cyborg, and now Amanda Nunes. So I think that's probably going to be done away with. But anyway, this whole fiasco with 232 dates back to mispromoting Amanda Nunes in the first place. Yeah. If you promoted Amanda Nunes properly, if you gave her respect after UFC 200, you gave her respect after she smashed Ronda Rousey, if you gave her respect and did not disparage her every chance you got, after what happened at 213 and the low sales of 215, if you didn't trash her at every moment that you had, what would have happened is that these tests would have came back looking crazy for John Jones, and there wouldn't have been this desperation to keep it all together. You would have had faith in the fact that you had a genuine super fight that could headline the card and been content, and then worry about John Jones and Alexander Gustafsson later after you've got the regulations sorted out. But here we go. When you don't promote fighters, the promotion puts themselves in a very, very bad position when things don't go according to plan. So hopefully they've learned their lesson, and Amanda Nunes gets some respect in the building.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's move on. Our next question is another one from Yohimbo. He says, Kat Zingano lost by TKO when Megan Anderson's toe caught her in the eye. Is she justified in possibly appealing the loss? And where does featherweight go from here? Can they still promote Anderson now?
It's a weird one. Like I saw some stories talking about it. I didn't get to read them, but making the point that the toe can be viewed on the same level as a digit as like a finger poke. But it's a tough one because at least the guidelines of a finger, the hand, you should be a closed fist. You can close fist. I mean, how are you gonna, what are you gonna close toe? Like it's a weird one. So I don't think she has much of a case in terms of trying to appeal it. A loss is a loss, but I think the fair thing would be to just run it back. I mean, even Megan Anderson said it after the fight, run it back. I mean, it didn't get to happen. Yeah, it's unfortunate for Kat. Weird accident. Things happen. Some people get wins on bad decisions. Some people get lost on bad decisions. Some people have fights end because of cut. It's just one of those weird things. But MMA is a sport you can bounce back from a win real quick. Run it back. If she catches out, dominates her and beats her and knocks her out, then whatever. And no one will remember that. So I think that would be the right thing for the UFC to do. I don't know if they will, but appealing it, I think that's just a fruitless venture for Kat Zingano.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you can appeal it. It's probably not going to get you anywhere. We've seen fights that legitimately should have been turned over and should have been re-examined. You get tossed out on an appeal like it's nothing. So I expect the same thing to happen with this. Because here's the thing, too. This wasn't a foul. This was a legitimate TKO based off of an injury. Mm-hmm. So, whoever said that the fingers and toes are the same, no. Like, my first thought is they've probably never thrown a kick in their life. That's what they think. If you are to strike someone with your fingers, it requires the open hand, of course. You have to actively not ball up your fists and then make contact. Please explain to me how you're going to curl up your toes to throw kicks. That's not how that's done. You don't, like, the average person doesn't even have that much control over the movements of their toes, like to have that precise motor skill. Like, that doesn't make a lick of sense whatsoever. So, and then also think back to when Junior Dos Santos won by TKO against Cro Cop. He punched him, and his fist lodged into Cro Cop's eye. He covers his eye and he steps back. And he can't continue anymore because he got punched in the eye. This is the same sort of thing. The kick just happened to land in her eye. It's unfortunate. It sucks. It was really bizarre and unsettling to see that 15 feet away from me, and also to see Kat Zingano as she's leaving the cage and she still can't fully open her eye. That was definitely not the most comfortable of scenes, but it doesn't take away from the fact that that was a legitimate technique that was not performed incorrectly. That resulted in a legitimate stoppage win for Megan Anderson. Now, I say the UFC should run it back because that was definitely a fluky result, and I think that matchup promises a lot of action and can clear up a lot of things about this so-called division at featherweight. So that could be something to explore. But on appeal, it means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so let's move on here. Our next question is from Moonwalker95. How does PFL afford $1 million for each champion on the card? And was O'Connell winning it all the feel-good story of the year? I'm going to take it back to our PFL insider, Jason Burgos.
That's a good question. I actually was talking to my girlfriend about this because in the post fight they had one of the writers brought up to Ray Seffa, are you going to expand the roster and add more people? And he said no, he's going to keep it at 12 per division. And it made me realize, like, because if they aren't getting necessarily huge crowds, they're not filling up stadiums like the UFC or whatever. They're not getting the type of ratings like the UFC, but they can still financially afford everything. It's because they have the roster very small. This is not a UFC roster, so they have featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight. So that's 6 divisions. So with 12 guys each. So I'm doing math, but 72. So it's only 72 fighters. While the UFC, what is it? UFC have like 300 fighters?
It's got UFC's got close to 600 now.
Yeah, so I mean, they're not filling up crazy cards, and it's using the same 72 guys over the first 3 or 4 events, and then the playoffs are the same. So it's a fairly small roster. So that's how they can afford it. They have the financial backing, but they keep the roster small. There's not variations really. Oh, this guy's making $670,000. This one's making 50. Everybody's on the same level. Mostly from when I interview fighters, the common number going into the finals for guys that made the finals were like $100,000 they had made up to that point or in the season. So it's all there's some variation, but that's how they can afford it. In terms of feel good story, I guess on a general level, yeah, it's hard to not like Sean O'Connor, especially since he was talking throughout the season about retiring. He ended up doing it, even though he was kind of cagey when I asked him in an interview, and then I asked him at the workout. He seemed like he wanted to come back, but he made the decision to retire. For me personally, it was Lewis Taylor. His story of coming from Chicago. We all know the gun violence issue as he grew up there, wanting to go back as a millionaire to his city and do some good and do some philanthropy and do some kind of meaningful thing. And then his post-fight speech was, honey, the house is paid off. Kids, your school is paid off. It's hard not to like that. Plus, he's a nice guy. That was my favorite. But yeah, Sean O'Connell is up there with the feel-good story to end a career as a millionaire for a career that's had a lot of downs to end it on that kind of high. How do you not like that,
Yeah, I think it's a toss-up between O'Connell and Lewis Taylor. Nathan Schultz, that's a cool story for him too. He's I got to talk to him briefly after the PFL playoff in Long Beach, and he's a very nice gentleman right there. Like that guy, just as a person. But O'Connell, man, you talk about a feel good story, man. This is a guy who was the consummate action fighter in the UFC. He was a guy that you could put on the card and rely on bombs being thrown and that classic, that classic mentality that Dana White would always be so vocal about that he wanted in the UFC. However, he was not getting paid like that. This man was not making a lot of money.
Nope.
And, I know you've talked to him a number of times, and, I'm sure you've heard things in more in detail, but I've heard some stuff about what his pay was like and what his financial situation was, and not very good. For someone who was putting himself on the line. So, just so readily for the UFC. So this is a guy who would have at best been making 20 and 20 per fight. Maybe fought twice a year. And that was no guarantee. So for him to now have $1 million check, that feels pretty damn good. And then look at the fact that he got knocked out earlier in the season and was able to come back. And this is while he's like diving deeper into his broadcasting career. The guy would literally take his suit off, go into the locker room, and come out ready to fight. There's no way you can't feel good about that. And as far as Lewis Taylor, he's another guy who's had some bad luck. I mean, he got cut from Bellator after a win.
And in World Series of Fighting, in that same building 2 years ago, he lost to David Branch for the title. So it was like a big vindication moment for him this year after that.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think he was signed to the UFC, and then his bout got canceled, and they cut him, and he never got to fight for the UFC. So this is another guy who would be middling around, and God knows what promotion somewhere around the world trying to scrape up a few dollars. But now he's got a serious check that says, "Oh, me putting my body on the line was worth it." He can look to his wife and kids and say, "Hey, the time away from home, Daddy's justified it." Got the check, got the bag. So I think that's amazing. So I don't want to pick which is the feeler good or the feel gooder. story. But
feel goodest.
The goodest feeling story ever out of those two, because I think they both are exceptional stories, and there's nothing but positive vibes to take away from that. So shout out to Lewis Taylor and Sean O'Connell. Congratulations on your win, as the other guys who won their tournaments in PFL for season 1. So that's pretty dope. Right,
also, mention those stats Jay put up. Jay put up some real good stats for the listeners here.
Where we at? You, I can't find them on my screen. Go ahead, rattle.
Oh, Jay, just gave some extra information on the PFL. 81 fighters overall participated in the PFL 2018 tournament. There were also season-end tournament, 3 fights outside the tournament. There was a couple of weird events before the season even started, and also counting Kayla Harrison and her opponents, so it was around 90 fighters. Still extremely small compared to for a major promotion. O'Connell fought 7 times in UFC. 3 were fight of the night, and he also added Taylor was signed to fight Uriah Hall in 2015. That would have been a damn good fight. I would love to see that fight right now. And Taylor had to pull out with an injured back, and they cut him out. Just, again, how can you not feel good for him after stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely, man. So yeah, that was a great way to end 2018. All right, so we're gonna go to question 9 from Bobby Boulders. He asked, "Was Tenshin Nasukawa versus Floyd Mayweather at Rizin 14 a work?"
You take this because I've just seen the highlights. I haven't watched bell to bell on that one, but you have, haven't you?
Yeah, I saw the whole Rizin card. It was a great card. It was very, very entertaining to say the least. It was everything we wanted from Japan. So let you infer from that what you want. But I don't think it was a work. I could be wrong, but even if I am wrong, even if it was a work, if they actually fought, do you think Tenshin would have done any better?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And if you are going to work a fight, if Rizin is going to go through the trouble to get Floyd Mayweather there, to pay him $9 million to just show up for 2 minutes, and he was like 4 hours late to the arena too, which I find hilarious. So you're gonna go through all this so you can devalue your undefeated superstar.
Exactly.
It's just why.
Yeah.
It's why. I mean,
I don't get it.
Really for I'm sure maybe I'll touch on this again later on, but just in case I forget, I'm gonna just get this off my chest now. For 2019, can we get Floyd Mayweather all the way the fuck up out of MMA? Can we keep him away from anything related to mixed martial arts? Just stay the fuck away. Just no, we don't want it. We don't want it. The most I can accept if TMT manages a couple of fighters, I'll accept that.
Yeah.
But even then, don't wear the hat. I don't want to see the Mayweather name attached to mixed martial arts anymore. You have fucked it up. Thank you, Floyd. And also fucked it up. All these people that are buying this nonsense. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I've seen notable people like Pat Millett just said he thought it was a work. I was like, damn, really? All right.
I mean, it could. The thing is, it could be a work. This is Japan, after all. It could be a work.
Yeah.
Attention was flying around the damn ring every time he got touched. But at the same time, Mayweather was like 20 pounds heavier than him.
Exactly.
Mayweather's also like the greatest boxer of our generation, and Tenshin is a kickboxer.
Exactly.
It's just like, why are people? So the guys in my family are big time boxing guys, and that's my first love of combat sports. Came through family in the boxing, right?
Me too.
Now my phone was blowing up because they thought it proved something that Mayweather's so smart. Like, no, he's not being smart. Everyone else is being stupid. If you think that Tenshin Nasukawa, as amazing of a martial artist as he is, as great of a kickboxer as he is, if you think he stood a snowball's chance in hell against Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match, you are an idiot.
Yes.
If you think this required any level of suspense to wonder what was going to happen, you are an idiot. And I would respect the fact of that your opinion is dog shit. And you keep it there. Like, you need like a pooper scooper for your opinion if this is really what you think. There's no way this is going to go well. Look at what happened to Conor McGregor, who's the bigger guy, and actually has a more boxing based offense. Than Tenshin Nasukawa does. Please explain to me how you saw that You saw Mayweather destroy him the moment he decided to start fighting.
Yep.
And now you think this guy who's 20 pounds lighter than him, and is less experienced, is going to beat Mayweather. Get the fuck out of here. If you think it's going to happen any other way, please shut the fuck up forever.
And you nailed it. Just I don't like. He's boxing to. Floyd played it as Floyd always does. He played it in his favor. He's like a perfect villain. He played it so he have the advantages. It's a boxing fight. He's arguably one of the greatest boxers of all time, and he's still in good enough shape. Even though he looked a little soft, I was surprised by that. But that just shows you how much he didn't give a fuck. He knew he was going to win real easy. That he still, like you say, 20 pounds. That matters in fights and stuff like that, especially when you're pushing around body weight. And the guy's, that's not his repertoire. If you look at all his highlight videos, it's fucking kicks. Now, and you nailed it too. Even if it was a kickboxing fight, he still might have lost. But if it was a kickboxing fight, at least it was fun. That's the one thing I take away from it. Floyd, if you think it was easy, then let's still have a rematch and do a kickboxing, because you never know. Maybe he kicks him. Floyd's knees got a lot of wear and tear. Maybe, who knows? He kicks him in the knee, he injures him, he wins. But to go back to the work angle, since we're using, again, wrestling jargon and calling it a work, if you pay attention to wrestling and it's about making money to work, it's an exhibition fight. Why, if it's a work, why wouldn't you have Floyd lose so you can have a bigger, even bigger money fight exhibition the second time? It is not going to count his record if he lost. So if it's a work, why not have him lose to come back to make more money for trilogies? To work to win what a fight he was going to win anyway, if you have any sense, makes no sense. It's just people. That's the bad thing about Japan. And their history and everything like that. Like the one I always remember is Rampage getting told not to take Sakuraba down, stuff like that. And look, they were working it to protect their Japanese star. Anthony, you just nailed it. Why would they work it to hurt their star who's going to be there for years to come? Doesn't make any sense, people.
Makes zero sense. It takes and like seriously, somebody with the IQ of a garden salad could figure out that this was a dumbass idea.
Yes.
Just miss me with this. Floyd Mayweather, please stay the fuck up.
Yes, go away.
You are no longer welcome. Shit, man, I'm so sick of this shit. Man, I tell you, man, and this whole thing now with Ali trying to say that Khabib is gonna fight Mayweather now, and they're not fighting Tony Ferguson. Like, just no. I don't want to hear none of that shit. I don't want to hear any of that shit. I barely want to hear about Khabib rematching Conor.
Yeah.
I barely want to hear about that. I'll accept it because I understand. I understand that it's a little more complex. Okay, I can understand it, but I don't like it. But if you skip over Tony Ferguson for Floyd Mayweather,
you can feel it coming. You can feel it coming. It's coming, especially with the comments by Dana about the rematch looks like for 2019. You just feel it coming. It's like,
just what are we doing? What are we doing? And you know what? And what a perfect way to segue into our next question. And then we'll touch on that poll again. Pause. I said touch on that poll again. Anyway. Oh, wow. Oh, man, we're so mature here on the Triggers. All right, so Purple Storm says, what fights are you most looking forward to in the next few months?
I mean, you could take this guy. I got to think about it. I mean, there's obviously the Brooklyn card with Cejudo, Dillashaw, but I got to think about it. Maybe, Jay, you can give us some upcoming main events, because I'm not I mean, there's the Dillashaw, Cejudo, without a doubt, Daly and Venom Page. I'm excited for that one. I got Vader and Fedor. I'm excited for Fedor. I picked Fedor in Sherdog's picks for comeback fight of the year. He actually was the winner for that. Those are probably the ones I'm looking forward to. And it also was announced, and I applied for these events in February, is Crow Cop. Roy Nelson actually got rebooked after Crow Cop with his injury. That's a fun fight. Daniel Cormier doesn't have any fights. So a lot of the major stars don't have any fights lined up. Yeah, Garbrandt doesn't have any, but those are the three that I'm really pumped for, that I want to see, or those four.
Yeah, I'm trying. The fights that I really want to see are all in jeopardy of being victims of
yes,
fuckery.
Exactly.
So I'm very hesitant to answer that question. Like, of course, Dillashaw Cejudo should be a good fight. I'm curious to see what Dillashaw's going to look like at 125. Although 125 seems to be a thing that's going to be done away with after this event, so it'll probably be just a waste of everyone's time. But I'm curious to see what that fight's going to look like. Excited to see Cain Velasquez back. I mean, because that's always a question mark when you see his name on a booking, whether he will make it to the cage or not. So those are there, but the ones that I really want to see are the ones that are in jeopardy now. Khabib and Tony, like I agree with 73% of our poll that Khabib versus Tony is the fight to make for the UFC. Like
Colby and Woodley, that was
Colby and
really
Woodley, and they are trying to destroy that. I don't know if you saw that horrible, like cringeworthy Twitter exchange between Woodley and Usman today. Like, like man, Usman needs to step his trash talk game up. Like that was dreadful. Like that was really bad. And the thing that makes it so is even worse is that they are really trying to force this. They are trying. Like you have Colby who earned a belt. He already earned a belt. Now, you know, I ain't got to go into the politics of the matter, but you know, that is one person I don't agree with pretty much anything he says. I don't agree with a damn thing that Colby Covington has to say about anything but his merits for a title shot. So get a man a damn title shot. Like, let Woodley heal his broken hand. You know, and let them get healthy and let them fight each other. Why this forcing of Woodley or Covington to fight Usman on March 2nd? It's just asinine. Like you're trying to manufacture something that isn't there. While Woodley versus Usman would be an interesting athletic contest, it doesn't have the heat that Colby has. It doesn't. It simply does not. And it never will, because this is like Colby and Tyron have like a genuine feud with one another. And on top of that, Colby's earned his shot. He earned it already. So let's not pretend that Usman didn't get there by beating the same guys that Colby beat already. Just knock it off. Just knock it off and let the fight happen that's supposed to happen. So I'm so hesitant to answer this question because I don't know what we're going to see. Like, we can even take it back to Jones Cormier 3 at heavyweight. I wouldn't mind seeing that as well. You brought up, which I think this was included on the poll as well. Let me pull that up just to make sure that I'm not screwing any of this up. But you brought up Jones versus Romero, which, oh my goodness. That I did not know I wanted to see that until you said it. Holloway versus Conor McGregor in a rematch is another interesting one. I think they got about 9% of the poll. So those are some very interesting things. But are we going to see them? I don't know. With the erratic style of matchmaking, you know, it's like they almost want to make it more difficult. Colby Covington challenging Tyron Woodley is just way too simple and has been made already. Just let it happen. You know, let's let nature take its course. And we'll leave it at that, man. What? Fuck out of here with all this foolishness. Oh my goodness. It hurts my soul to see what they're doing. And talking about no Khabib, Tony Ferguson. Man, well, that's gonna make me mad. Man, you better let them motherfuckers fight. That like seriously, do you realize how much of a travesty it will be if we don't see Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson fight each other in their primes? Like this will be Chuck Liddell versus Vanderlei Silva when they were already in the twilight of their reigns, and now they fight each other, and it was good. It was a great fight, but it wasn't special.
Nope.
You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but that wasn't even a main event.
No. Yeah, it wasn't. It was already after Chuck had been knocked out. It was starting already on the decline. Both of them had been on the decline. Yeah,
and if we take it back to boxing and Floyd Mayweather versus Pacquiao happened 5 or 6 years too late.
Yes,
and ended up being a stinker of a fight for a variety of reasons. One of which it was too goddamn late.
Yeah.
So let's not follow that same blueprint. We've got two guys that are amazing, and there are two of the best lightweights on earth, two of the best pound-for-pound fighters on earth. Let them fight because that's the way it's supposed to be. Like, And another interim champion that doesn't have his belt devalued just because hey, it's Tuesday. Fuck it.
And he never even lost. Like that's almost as if like Fedor or Crow Cop wouldn't have met in Pride. Like that fight always looks. I always look at this fight. It's just epic because it was like the two biggest, scariest heavyweights at the time. They finally meet. Like this is a wrecking machine in Khabib. This is a just fucking rubber band man, psychotic maniac, killing machine of his own. And Ferguson, like this, it has to happen. And it's going to be one of my picks on the trenches, which was going to get to show.
Oh yes, and let's go ahead and guess we'll just start right into it. The trenches. So I would have some little theme music, but I don't. So I'll just the trenches. Bitch. All right. So the trenches are simply our fun awards. Of course, you'll see all the real awards on Sherdog.com in the next couple of days. I think Ben Duffy dropped a few of those. I think he dropped KO of the year, Breakthrough Fighter of the Year. I think he did that one as well. I should have a Fight of the Year coming out probably tomorrow. If it's not out already, I turned it in a couple hours ago. I got Submission of the Year and Robbery of the Year coming out. So you're gonna see all the awards brought out over the next week or so. Everybody's getting it in, and the Sherdog.com staff voted, and that's where the legitimate stuff happens. Here on the trenches, it's all about the trashing.
It's legitimate A. It's not full legitimate. It's next legitimate.
It's like a lowercase a.
Yes, very low.
Yeah, or you like L for legitimacy with an accent mark. Over. You know, something real fancy and unnecessary and shit.
Legitimate.
Yeah, legitimate. Yes. All right. So our first question, the Trenchy Award for most trash moment. Jason, what is your pick?
I mean, we've already covered it for 2 weeks now. It's the UFC moving an entire event from one state to another for one man named the John Jones.
Yeah, I want to agree with the most trash moment. I do, and I really do. But just to mix it up a little bit, let's not forget about the felony that became the commercial for UFC 229.
Oh, that's a goodie. That's a goodie.
Conor McGregor throwing a dolly through the bus of fighters underground at 223. Not wise, my guy. Not wise. But hey, you got paid a lot. But you might have to give all that money to Michael Chiesa.
Currently in litigation because of that same moment right now.
Like, man, you can't make this shit up. All right. So, and I'm not even talking like a post-fight brawl. I mean, at the moment, it seemed like such a horrible, horrible thing. Yeah. But after sitting on it for a couple of days, like, whatever. Whatever.
It's not new. We've seen it. You know, like I'll never forget. I don't know if you remember this because you're a box fan. The madness in the garden of Bo and Galata.
Oh yes, yeah.
Like, it ain't gonna get worse than that, or the fight in the palace. So I mean, it pales in comparison. Just in MMA land is crazy.
I know that Bo Galata fight when Rock Newman clotheslined some dude out of the ring.
Yes.
Yeah, like. Oh man, little ass Rock Newman was terrorizing through DC. But anyway, I digress. So our next the Trenchy Award for most in the trenches, our favorite in-depth news piece of the year. What say you on that, Jason?
This one I had to look it up but I always remember it's a story called Conor and the Cartel, a look at the shady figures linked to UFC megastar Conor McGregor. It was a story by Tim Bissell at Bloody Elbow. It was from September of this year. And I always remember because, you know, it was the story before, like, as we got closer to Conor and Khabib, everybody talked about Khabib and his connections to, you know, Russian oligarchs and what's his name, Kidrisiv or whatever, the guy who's like running ACB now and all that kind of stuff, like his shady connections. But this is an article talking about Conor's shady connection to two of the major Irish cartels or mafia gangs, the Kinahan gang and the Hutch gang, and their ongoing war, and how he's connected to one of those gangs. And really fascinating story by Tim Bissell. Explains both gangs, their lewd, violent history and the connections, and then Conor's involvement on some level. Really good story. Highly recommended. Look at us from September 26th of this year on Bloody Elbow. Fascinating stuff. Conor is not a clean, nice guy either.
Yeah, man. There were, as far as like the in-depth news pieces out there related to mixed martial arts, there was some great stuff that came out this year. And I definitely want to give a serious shout out to all of our colleagues out there in the MMA media space who contributed to some excellent work. So it's really difficult to narrow down. Like, man, I'm telling you, like as far as op-eds go, our guy Jacob Devitt is like the shit. Like Jacob Devitt is out there writing some of the best stuff in mixed martial arts, and y'all need to get up on it. Like straight up and down on that. On that, like Chuck Mendenhall always putting out good stuff. So there are great things going out all over the space. But I'm going to give the in-depth one. I'm going to give that to my homie Mark Raimondi of MMA Fighting for the piece that he put out. I think it was the morning of 232 that gave a very detailed breakdown of some of the research involved with the steroid test and what Turinabol, if it stayed in your system or whatnot, and what all these different scientists were trying to piece together, and who genuinely had an understanding of it, and what the timeline looked like leading up to the event moving to the forum in Inglewood, California. So I think that was such a great piece, and I remember seeing him working on it. Like he's working on it like the day the event moved. He started working on this, and pretty much every spare moment, he's got his face buried in his laptop, and he's banging away making calls and doing some good work. So shout out to the homie Mark for that one. I really enjoyed that piece. That was very well done, and it taught us a lot about a bunch of shit that we otherwise don't understand. All right, so the next Trenchy Award goes to favorite credentialed event. Jason, what was your favorite event that you were credentialed for this year?
Mine is on like more of a sentimental, nostalgic level, but it was Bellator 208 at the Nassau Coliseum. It was the one headlined by Fedor and Chael Sonnen. There was some good. Get to see Benson Henderson in person was great. Some other good fighters on. Czech Congo was on there, but just to be in the building, because there was a large Russian Fedor favoring supportive contingent, and just that was the first time in my time covering MMA live that I've ever been in an event where I felt a natural electricity, like the aura, like it lived up to it. Seeing Fedor in person, there was an aura and electricity. Chael Sonnen involved. The fight itself was exciting. It was it was. I may have gotten, because who knows, Fedor may get clocked by Ryan Fedor. It's very possible, and lose badly. But I felt like I got to see a glimpse of the legend, Emperor, one last time, because he looked that good in that fight. That was my favorite credential event, just because of the electricity of it.
You know, this one was very difficult for me to narrow down, because I had a lot of good experiences this year covering mixed martial arts. So off the top of my head, I was credentialed for 227, 229, 232. I went to Wilder Fury. I was at Triple G Vanez. I went to PFL in Long Beach, and it seemed like it was something else. Golden Boy MMA. There's a few other fights that I went to this year. So I definitely made my rounds, and I thoroughly enjoyed every second of covering mixed martial arts. And they all have their standout moments for me personally. So 227 was my first event with my job title now with Sherdog, and that first day there, I raised the ire of Cody Garbrandt, and he hates me. So that was pretty funny. There was 229, of course, the biggest event in UFC history. I was there for that as well. But I think 232 is going to have to be my favorite event that I was credentialed for, because one, I got to sit on the floor and I'm right next to the action. I got to witness with my own eyes Amanda Nunes make history. Also got to be a part of the chaos and seeing actual journalism go on behind the scenes, seeing a lot of the MMA media kind of congregating together and formalizing game plans of how we're going to attack these media scrums and how we're going to hold these people accountable for some of the questionable decisions. What questions are we going to be asked? And what it was. I think it was a great experience to see that at work for all the shit that gets talked about the media mixed martial arts. Some of it deserved. But there were a lot of people that put in a lot of effort to make good things happen and to report honestly with integrity. And I was honored to be a part of that. And on top of that, I got to see history with my own eyes. So that's going to be my favorite event that I was credentialed for the year. But Wilder Fury was very close to being that
I'm surprised.
That was dope. All right, so our least favorite credential event. I think that
you take it.
Where I'm gonna go.
You take it. You take it first. We know where this is going.
Man, Golden Boy MMA, super trash in so many different ways. Like it was, I don't want to disparage the general rank and file staff of Golden Boy. I think the general rank and file staff of all these promotions, they do their best work. They work as hard as they possibly can to make things right. So shout out to all of them for all the work that they do year round. But man, you talk about at the top, people not knowing what the hell was going on. Oscar De La Hoya was totally clueless. His lackey that he brought on the stage for the post-fight press when he was showing up was even less knowledgeable. The cage being broken down when there were no mics at the post-fight press conference was stupid. The matchmaking was atrocious. The main event was a travesty. There was so much wrong about that event that it was almost enjoyable. It almost became a comedy of errors. It was like MMA's version of Batman and Robin. So bad that it's almost kind of good. It was awful.
For me, it's gonna sound weird, but my least favorite credential event is going to be UFC 230 because my heart was broken as I was caged up in the media room as my pursuit to be press row cage side for UFC events still continues. Hopefully the streak will end at UFC ESPN 1 in a couple of weeks, but that was my toughest just because I was so close to the action, finally getting credentialed for a UFC event and to be put in the kids table in the media room. A lot of great moments. I got some amazing pictures, some great content. Like we always say on the show, I had a moment with Daniel Cormier he'll remember forever, but otherwise it's a disappointing moment for me despite being a really good card.
Yeah. All right, so our next question, the top I love MMA moment for you of 2018.
That one's easy. Speaking of Dan Cormier, him becoming champ. I mean, I am still a fan. Nothing's changed in the journals. I'm still a fan, still love the sport. And watching his career for the whole time, that was one of the recent moments that made me literally jump out of my seat for joy and excitement, seeing him become a champ, making unbelievable history, beating one of, if not the best heavyweight champion of all time in devastating fashion in the first round. My pick, Daniel Cormier, champ.
You know what? I'm going to go with my experience in the media room at 229 for this. And this is obviously before the brawl, which was very interesting in its own right to be around for that chaos. But I think I'm going to have to give it to my experience in the media room at 229 simply because, I mean, that was such a highly anticipated fight. Granted, McGregor and Nurmagomedov was sold on a lot of bullshit and the bus attack and kind of like the street beef between the guys, which was totally unnecessary considering that they are, without question, two of the greatest fighters walking the face of the earth right now, who style-wise make an interesting pairing. And that was not lost on us in the media room to like literally see. Now this is, you covering a UFC event or a sporting event, period. You're supposed to maintain objectivity and not actively root for anybody and whatnot. But to see the media room erupt when Derek Lewis knocked out Alexander Volkov and like literally everyone's cheering and high-fiving, the UFC staff is high-fiving journalists and stuff. It was it was really a like a party atmosphere in there when that happened. And then Derek Lewis's whole presentation after in the cage, and then his media scrum afterward. It was definitely a feel good moment to see I got up in T-Mobile to watch the crowd as the fighters are walking out to the cage, and it was just this tenseness and suspense that was building in the air, just this energy that you can't describe. There's nothing like a big fight. Absolutely nothing like a big fight. And my experience at 229, despite some of the hiccups, despite some of the negative things associated with that card, definitely it was an I love MMA moment for me of the last year. All right, so see what our next question is. 3 things that need to happen in 2019 mixed martial arts. What do you say, Jason?
Well, I mean, one, we were just kind of already addressed it. Nurmagomedov Ferguson, it has to happen. Please, Lord, most of us have waited 2 years for this fight to finally happen. It just it feels even bigger than ever because they've done even more since it was originally booked 3 chances ago. And they've become the top guys in the division. It has to happen. The other one's more again nostalgia. Crow Cop is in Bellator. Fedor's in Bellator. Kind of would like to see Fedor versus Bellator 2 at some point. I mean, Fedor versus Crow Cop 2 at some point in Bellator. That'd be fun. Kind of senior circuit nostalgia fun fest. And the other one would be, I would like to see a legitimate contender rise to John Jones. Because otherwise, John Jones has no real clear threats in that division. And he's already dominated it when there were clear threats. So going forward, holy Lord, what is going to be left? So hopefully maybe a guy like a Dominic Reyes can stand up and show he is maybe the next real threat and could be finally someone that can really take a test to John Jones. That's what I'm hoping for in 2019.
All right, so that's a good list right there. So I'm definitely putting Khabib, Tony. It's got to happen. You know, I won't go on another rant about that. I'll try not to, at least. No promises. Definitely number 2, get Floyd all the way the fuck up out of MMA. Get him all the way out of here. Like, no, thank you. Bye, Floyd. You're not welcome here. And 3, I want a return to more legitimacy in the sport. I want to see, I want to see more done to maintain sporting integrity. Now, I know mixed martial arts is especially of late, has become more entertainment than sport. And I'd like to see it go the other way. I miss you know, having a clear idea of who was in line for the belt and seeing a fight simply because these guys would fight each other and it would be an excellent fight. And this guy deserved to be there and this other guy deserved to be there too. I miss that as opposed to the celebrity matchmaking or TMZ or Twitter being used to make a fight. I want to see a return to legitimate sport. So hopefully that happens in 2019. And yes, Floyd, get all the way the fuck up out of MMA. All right, so let's see here. Now, the final Trenchy Award. And this is probably the one that you all were anticipating the most. This one is for all the marbles. This is where we award the biggest bonehead of 2018. Who is your biggest bonehead of the mixed martial arts world in 2018, Jason?
Well, my bonehead is someone who's not well established in the mixed martial arts game, but really made a statement and left their mark on the sport in 2018. Sad to say it's because he's one of my favorite boxers of all time. But bonehead of the year for the Trenchies is Oscar De La Hoya. Full bonehead. That's all I got to say.
Well, I got more to say because he is my bonehead of the year as well. I mean, come on now. Like, you can't pronounce the fighters' names right. You don't remember none of their names. You don't bother showing up for 90% of the damn event. You don't show the post-fight presser with a little weak-ass statement on Instagram driving away. And then to, like, if he just did that and just disappeared, okay, fine. It was a one-off thing. It happened. So be it. But he is still talking about this shit. He is now every other day he's got some foolishness on Twitter talking about pay-per-view is dead. People remind him like, bro, you just put on the shittiest card of the last 15 years just 2 months ago. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, that's why pay-per-view's dead. No, pay-per-view's not dead because you are bad at it, Oscar. Man, can he get all the way the fuck up out of MMA too? Shit, man. I mean, and granted, if Vitor and Tito fight each other under Golden Boy, yeah, I'm sure I'll be there. If they give me a credential, they probably gonna credential me now.
Yeah.
but man, what a disaster.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oscar De La Hoya tried to make mixed martial arts, and he is continuing to this day. Please, somebody, if you know Oscar De La Hoya, if you love Oscar De La Hoya, if you respect Oscar De La Hoya, take his damn phone away from him, please. Take his phone and rip the SIM card out. Like, no, he needs to have his phone privileges restricted. That's some bullshit. No, thank you. And Floyd, get all the way the fuck up out of MMA.
Yes, please, both of you, please.
Both of y'all, get out of the sport. Dead end, bro. Oh, that was more like Wakanda Forever, but yeah, I'm all about that.
Close enough.
Yeah, I'm all about that. So, I think that's gonna do it, man. We got the Trenchy Awards done. We reviewed some fun stuff. Definitely, if you have not checked out Rizin 14, I would highly recommend going in and not the Floyd fight. That's trash. But go in and watch some very, very interesting fights. And yeah, that was an event right there. Anything you want to say, Jason, before we wrap things up here?
As always, Twitter, Instagram, Cheap Seats Chat. Got some stuff coming. I just interviewed Henry Corrales. He's gonna be in the Bellator this month. He's fighting Aaron Pico. Talked to him about this, so hopefully the story will be up on that soon. Trying to secure some possible interviews for the Bellator ESPN one card. Get those up. Pretty bit chilling. Pretty much filled up my quota quickly with PFL Championship stories. So working on that January quota. But you know how to check me out.
All right, so you can find me at Ant Walker MMA. That is the Twitter and the Instagram. What I've got coming up, I honestly have no idea whether my Fight of the Year article is published yet.
Yeah.
It might be. I don't know. If not, it'll be up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Ask Ant should be coming out tomorrow as well. I got to go through and see what questions are left over. Make sure it's enough to get a good article out of it. So then I've got the Submission of the Year story. That's going to be Ryan Hall and BJ Penn. And then the Robbery of the Year, which was voted as Darren Till against Wonderboy Thompson. So should be some interesting stuff coming up for me in the next few days. In the meantime, you know where to hit us up on Twitter. You know what to do, how to get in contact with us. And you know what I want you to do. I want you all to stay classy, stay beautiful, stay positive, and stay sexy. I'll see you when I see you. Peace.